Hi everyone, Lisa Sosepeck from Spellbound Miniatures here, and today we are on day 12 of our 13-day countdown to Halloween, and we're making our Halloween Book Nook. Today we're doing the accessories, just some things to go inside. I'm wearing my Cricut made, or Cricut vinyl made, piratey influenced Halloween shirt today, and I thought we've got a different camera angle today. Well, I'm going to do some accessories in polymer clay. I'm not a polymer clay expert by any means. I've just had a play around over the last year or two. So I thought I'd show you the things that I most typically use, and we'll have some fun and try and create some other accessories for the Book Nook. So I thought I'd just give you a little tour of probably the most common things that I think anyone would use starting out with polymer clay. So we've got the camera down here today, and excuse any of the reflection of the lights. I've got my granite slab here, which is really nice to work on, and it's quite cool and it's dead flat, so that's great for taking anything off with the blade. I also use tiles, household tiles, and an acrylic sheet is good for, sometimes you want to kind of flatten something down on top. It will scratch, so I wouldn't use that with a blade. Over here, let's see, what's the next thing we've got? Also, these are kind of little Teflon sheets. They're great. They do have a texture though, so you wouldn't want to use those if you wanted a really lovely flat surface, but they're great. They're non-stick and you can bake on those. I've got some bones because I didn't know whether I was going to use bones in one of today's make, and the mitre shears for that. These little things are called finger cots, and therefore not getting fingerprints on your polymer clay. I haven't had much luck with them. I definitely like to feel what I'm doing, and it's the same with silver work. I can't wear gloves and do that. I like to feel them, but these things are available if you particularly don't want to get fingerprints on your clay. But mostly you can use clay softener or rubbing alcohol on a cotton bud to take any excess fingerprints off, or dust and hairs. So there's ways around that. These are the blades, and they're called tissue blades. This one is, you can see, very bendy, and this one isn't, and they're really good, especially the bendy one, for getting things off of a flat surface, and also for just slicing. Use the stiffer one for slicing canes or making shapes, slicing shapes out of your clay. I've got some pliers and some wire there because I'm going to try and use those in one of the accessories today. I've got some bottle caps and some cloches, and then some foil trays, which I will use them upside down like a tent to protect the clay in the oven so it doesn't burn or go brown. And similarly, use foil a lot, not only for baking, but to make a pumpkin, for example. I used the foil and scrunched it up and then formed the skin of the pumpkin round it, so you just don't have a solid lump of clay that you've got to bake, and it makes it lighter as well. And then I have a Pyrex dish as well that I would just put my clay in. You can put it on a piece of kitchen towel and use a foil over the top. I have all different colours of clay, as you do. One I thought would be good fun to have a go with is, this is fluorescent, sort of glow in the dark clay. I've had this for a few years and not done anything with it yet, so that would be fun. Got some translucent, different colours, black and orange, which would be typical for a pumpkin. Also, those sheets are great for if you've made something up and just want to store it. I found them useful for that, keeping things nice and flat. Here are some tools. Can you see those? There we go. Cheaper tools, just for making any dent, hole, impression, scraping things away. and then some silicone tipped shaping tools and sort of ball ended tools are really helpful. You get those on Amazon or eBay for nail art. And then these are quite useful. They are different widths of plastic and the same colour is the same width. So it's like if you wanted to roll something out a set thickness, you would put these either side of your piece and then roll it, and then it would be exactly that depth. So they're very handy. I've got some liquid gel there. That's for, like Bacon Bond, you might have heard of that. If you want to glue effectively one piece of clay to another, that strengthens the joint. And then I've got some UV resin as a sort of pour on one there and a brush on one there, which is great for a nice shiny coat. I've got my pasta rolling machine, not an expensive one because I don't do enough clay work to warrant that, but it's just handy sometimes to get, again, a nice even sheet of clay, and for doing blending where you, I did that here, you can get a nice sort of blending of colours like stripes and different effects using the rolling machine rather than by hand. A clay extruder here, so that's one of those things that has all these different ends, and you could get, oh, there, like little worms and things, different shapes, which would be hard to do a lot of them by hand and all the same size. And then some that you can get texture plates. So this is scales, like fish scales, and that created, I don't know if this is going to come up very well. Oh yeah, you can just about see that. That's a really nice effect there. And all kinds of, I've made a lot of moulds myself. You can get a two-part called silicone gum, I think it's called. It's blue and white in two different pots, and you mix it together. So if you create something, you can make a mould of it. So I first started using silver clay, and that's when I started getting into moulds. And so when I went into miniatures, it was an obvious move then to get polymer clay and use moulds too. So today, one of the things we're going to try is, I thought it'd be fun to put some wings in a cloche dome, because if it's death, it would be funny, like maybe it's one of his favourite set of wings, like a trophy or something. So I made those. There's the mould from those, which was a jewellery finding, and then so I made that, and then I reversed it as well, so I had a left and a right, and some little, you can't really see that, that's an acorn cap mould. Once you get into moulding, it's like a whole new world of addiction, so I warn you with that. And these were stamped out of like cake decorating stamps, like a plunger, and you push it in. So keep an eye out for those, they're good fun, and you can variegate the clay to get different colours on it, and you can paint it also with acrylic paint. I've got a thing for wings, so here are some bigger wings as well. And then a doming silicone mould is really helpful. So I took that mermaidy scale there and I domed it in the doming mould, and this is resin, and it's not very clear on there because the lighting's not great in here, but can you see that? It actually traps some air bubbles in, which normally you wouldn't want, but on this one it added to the effect. So you can create kind of little 3D ornaments and embellishments using this, and also you can make eyes from it. So if you were going to make any characters for your miniature work, you can make your own eyes. I need the macro lens, I think, for that to come out. And that was again using actually glitter and UV nail gel and polishes and things like that. So that was good fun. And also, well, I've got a little mould here somewhere. I need to, oh, I've lost that now, of this little fish. So I thought it would be quite good fun to create some little fish for a pie for death. Here in Cornwall we have a thing called stargazy pie, which is a fish pie, and all the mackerel heads poke out of the crust. So that's stargazy pie. So I thought it would be fun if we did a pie for death with the, where are we? There we go. Little fish boneheads poking up out of the crust. So I thought I'd got my mould out for that today. I need to go and find that. That's what we'll start with. So instead of a stargazy pie, it'd have to be maybe a hellgazy pie or a soulgazy pie. Soulgazy pie sounds better, doesn't it? So that's what we'll do first. I'm just going to go and find my little fish mould and then I'll be back. Okay, so I have found my little fish mould now. There we go. There he is. It's got a little ring in the end, which I don't need. That was for making a silver charm. So we just, when we push him out of the mould, we can just cut that bit off. And I've got just a chunk of UV, although it looks white, clay. And whenever you're going to work with white clay, it's always good, and I have a piece of random white clay that I just keep to one side here, to work through your fingers to get any dust and dirt and lint off of your fingers. You can also use a wet wipe, but then you've got to dry your hands on something and that might get lint on them again. So you're always probably going to find something when you work with white clay, unless you're super clinical. But this is a pie for death and it's going to be aged anyway, so I'm not worried about that today. And another thing to bear in mind when you're working with clay colours is start with the lightest one, and then red really stains your fingers, and black, or obviously the darker colours, will come off too. And if you're going to be using any tools, clean them in between and go always, if you can, from the lightest to the darkest in general. And using the pasta machine and also this extruder, a really good tip for using these is to actually put a wet wipe on the extruder and push that through to clean that out too. And you can put the wet wipe through your pasta machine as well. So wet wipes are pretty handy things to have. So this one, we're not using a massive amount of clay today, and the silicone type moulds are great. You don't need to use any kind of release agent. If you're using silver clay, you would. And if you haven't heard of silver clay, it's really good fun. You do need a kiln to fire it, and I do have a little mini kiln in my studio. It's just basically a clay, and you can mould it the same as you would polymer clay. You fire it in the kiln and it comes out as pure silver. In fact, we're used to hearing about 925 silver. Silver clay, once it's been fired, actually comes out slightly higher percentage of silver than that. So that's really good fun, and a great way to get some shapes that would be hard to build up by hand from silver sheet or wire without using a wax casting method. So that's always good fun. So this is nice and squidgy now, and you always need less clay than you think when you're using a mould. The great thing about clay is it can be just stored, not near any heat, and then, you know, it's set in the oven, so it doesn't go off generally if you just store it in the plastic that it came in. Some cling films aren't great to store clay. So you can see I've just literally squished it in there. You can use the blade to scrape the excess off. Can you see that now? Yeah. And there might be a little bit more I want to get off there. And then, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this, you can just pop it out. Yeah. There we go, there's a little fish. And you can tidy up the edges, there's a little bit there that I would cut off with a knife, say. And you could use a needle tool as well and go round it. So what am I going to bake these on? I think, I'll put them on my tile. That's not too shiny, is it? And this can go straight in the oven. And this will be a one-sided, let's see how clever I can get him. A one-sided fish, it's not a 3D fish. And I need my needle tool. Is that one there? No, I think it's over there. Excuse me a second. That's found its way into my other tool canister. Somewhere. There we go. Again, this isn't an expensive one. It's just good for, if I can you see that there? Shaping up edges if there's a little bit there you want to get rid of. And also the silicone tipped tools are great as well for just pushing and shaping them in. So that will just stay on there and I can put it straight into the oven. So I'm going to make several of those. I think I might be nice to have some heads and some tails sticking out of the pastry. So I'll just go and make some of those and I'll come back. So there we have some little fish in UV, no not UV, glow in the dark polymer clay. And they don't have to be perfect and they don't all have to be exactly the same because that wouldn't be realistic anyway. So I'm going to bake them on that tile. It will give them a shiny back, but that's okay. I'm going to give it a bit of a gloss anyway. I need to think about the kind of sauce that I want in the pie, and then I'll want to mix up more of a pastry-ish colour surface to poke these fish through. So that will be probably a mix of, let me have a look, what have I got here? Not grey. I want it to look like pastry, so I'll have a look and I'll let you know the shades that I used. Okay, so I've just sent those fish off to bake in the oven. It was at the instructions on the packet. They always write it on there, 110 degrees C for 30 minutes, and I put the little foil tent over them. I'm not going to do them the full 30 minutes. I do just want them to get stiff enough so that when I put them in the pie, they're not going to bend with the pastry. So that's why they've gone off first, and I found the two colours that I wanted. It's chocolate and champagne, which sounds rather yummy, but do not eat this. So that will be making the pastry, but I'm going to wait until the fish heads are out first. So the next thing I want to do is create the cloche. And I got these from one of those websites, AliExpress. And they come in different sizes and you get different tops and bottoms. And I did put, one of the first things I made when I got my Cricut was a little putz house, a glittery house. So I have used one of these before. Where are we? There. So you get the base and then you get the glass top. Now, will I be able to fit a pair of wings in there difficult. Let me see if they were like that. Can you see? Ooh, it's going to be difficult. Maybe if I angle them. I probably can. So instead of having them flat, I'm just going to angle them slightly. Okay, start that again. Somebody rang my phone and the camera stopped. So I've got these little tops and bottoms and cloches, and it'd be a good idea to have a base in there. So I could make a base of polymer clay, and then that will hide the wires, because I was thinking I could make a wire structure to glue onto these, and then the structure would come down and go into the base. I could use a cocktail stick, but either way I think I'd like something in the base. I've got some, it's Fimo Effects, you probably can't see that, it's like little glittery bits of granite, and that might make quite a good base. I also made some faux amethyst from polymer clay, and I could almost use that at the bottom with angel wings at the top. That would be quite cool. Maybe a bit blingy for death. Do we want grungy? Or do we want blingy? Well, while I'm thinking about that, I'll do the wiring. So I've just got some basic. This is wire that I would use to hold something together for soldering. So it's not pretty wire at all. And I'm just literally going to form it and twist it. I don't know if you can see that. If you just do that with wire and twist the end, it gets tighter and tighter. That's quite a nice effect. And I have got on my jewellery bench a clamp, which I normally would just clamp the ends into and then spin it, but we can do this quickly enough. I don't know if you can see that. I'm literally just spinning it. Whether it will pick that up, I don't know. Okay, if you get some pliers and hold the end, and then a paintbrush, and you can just do that and get it even tighter, and it's quite satisfying. It's like, I don't know that you're gonna see that. Hold on. It's just very gently braided. I think I'd need a macro lens to pick that up. And I've handily got this nice shape now in the end from the paintbrush. And if I could glue them on there. That might be work. I don't know if you can see that. I have this shape and glue them on. That might look quite good. I'll be using like a contact adhesive, so it takes a while to set, but then it's quite strong. That might look quite good. So I could glue those on there. Straight edges are better. Yeah, and then I will get this wire down and then right angle it and stick it in the clay, and then that can get glued onto that base there. So obviously I don't want them any higher than the top of the cloche, and that's where I'll want to make my bend there. So I'm just, it doesn't matter which way I bend it, I don't think. Bend that there. And then it can't stick out beyond the base, so I'll just chop it off. So I could embed that in like that. So what colour base would I like, or what type of base? I think the plainer the better, so as not to detract from these, but even say a velvety effect might look good, in which case it doesn't matter what colour I do the base. So I do already have some brown there already mixed and pressed, so if I just take some of that and just roll it out a little bit more, because it only needs to be thick enough to bed that or hold that wire down. Clay is also a great, I find it anyway, kind of meditative, rainy afternoon job to do. So I'm happy with that. I'll check one more time. That's cool. I'll go and bake this now. And the oven is never that hot really, 110. So anything like these metal findings will be fine in there. I'll bake that and then I'll come back with the fish bones as well, and we'll make the pie and glue the wings and the material onto the cloche. Okay, so I've got these two colours, champagne and chocolate, so I'm going to create the pastry for the top of the pie. And this champagne is probably a very good pastry colour. I probably don't need to mix any chocolate in with it actually, because I will be using some chalk pastels to brush on to give it some colour. So maybe I'll just use that as it is for now. So again, just warm it up and squidge it a bit to condition it. And then I will want to make a kind of gravy. And the way I've seen people do that is just to take some liquid clay and crumble up and chop up the colour that you want and mix it in with the liquid clay, and then you get a kind of gravy sauce looking gloopiness. So that will be cool. Did I get, now these are just bottle caps, and I got those on eBay or Amazon, can't remember now, it was last year. I got those. And of course we'll need a filling for the pie to give some substance to the volume. So I'll do that in brown. So I'll do a brown base and mix up some brown and gravy, and then the fish skeletons are just cooling down. They'll come out of the oven, and then we'll roll out the pastry and try and get it to look as if the fish heads and tails are poking out of the top of the pie. So I've done that one. Let me just... I could use the clay roller, but this is meant to look like a homemade pie. So I just want to see if there's enough here to cover the top of that. And I want it relatively thin. So that will be perfect. So that's cool. So let's get the brown out now. Now I do just want a base, and then I also want some extra for the gravy, so I'll get a little bit more off. Let's just condition that again. And different colours seem to have slightly different textures and crumbliness, but that also might be to do with the age of the clay. And I haven't bought any new clay for, I don't even know if I bought any this year. So that it's at least a year old what I'm working with here. And this is just going to be a base, so it doesn't have to be too amazing or precious. I don't know if that's enough actually. Can you see that there? I probably need a bit more in there. What I want is to make it look as if there's something in the pie for the pastry to sit over. So let's add a bit more. Okay, so that's just in there covering that up. And I'll get some more out and make a goo. I'm just going to chop this up. Kind of reminds me of my grandmother chopping herbs. Specifically mint for the mint sauce for the lamb. Then I'll get my liquid clay. This is going to make a lot of gravy. I'll do half of it first. Let's get some of that out of the way. Sorry about that noise. And then we want a scoopy smashy tool to kind of start mixing and squishing them in. I'll do it that way around. This feels quite nice. And actually, as it's little bits of chunks, it looks like dog food. And fish meat isn't actually brown, is it? It's white or pink. But you want a sauce. Like, you want it to look ghastly, really. So that the fact that I could carry on and smooth that a lot more, but I'm quite liking that chunky effect. I might put some of this around here, put the pastry on top, slice some holes so you can see this through it, and then put the fish heads in. So, I don't know if you can see that I have a nice dog food looking substance. And then, doesn't matter if my hands have got some brown on them, because we're going to kind of, there's some white on them which I don't want, colour the top of that anyway. So do I stick the fish heads in and then put the pastry on, slit it, and then stick the fish heads in? I think I'm going to try and put the fish heads in first, and then, because if I put that on and slice it, some of the gravy might come out on the knife as it comes back through the pastry. So I'd have, yeah, I'm going to go and get the fish heads and try that first. Okay, so here are my fish, and they're quite deep, so I think I'm going to cut them in half and then either have the head sticking up or the tail sticking up. I think, well, they might go all the way through. I'm going to put the pastry on first. I want it nice and thin. And we're going to put it on and just gently give it a sort of squish around the edge there. Just gently to take some of the shape, so you can see there's something in there just around the edge. And then we're going to do it like you would traditionally make a pie, and press down harder. You could do it like that. And then just take that off the edge. I'm quite happy with that so far. I think that looks quite edible, but don't eat it. Okay, like that. So now I'm going to get a knife, poke a hole in it and wiggle it, and then stick a fish head in it. Are we ready? I need to do this so you can see it. And how many do I want? Let me just think. 6, so in thirds would be good, wouldn't it? Yeah, 6. 6 would be good. So let's do this one first. In and wiggle, and then create more of a oh my that's make my eyes water. That's very, very realistic dog food looking. Oh my goodness. that's definitely looking quite realistic as I've gone in there. So I'm going to chop him in half. Hold on to the bit I know I want to keep in case the other bit goes flying. Can you see that there? I've got these, so I'm just going to put that in there. Chop the tail off, and then I can do the pointy bit in there. And as I said, they are only one-sided heads. Can you see that? Yeah. And you can see in there glistening some dog food looking effect. So I'll go in the exact opposite side of that. Do the same again. Ooh, there we go. So I'll work my way round. So there we have that, and I'm going to take this tool and go around the edges and make it look as if it's been crimped with a fork. And then in the top you'd have some pie holes, wouldn't you? To let the steam escape. It's come down a little bit more than I'd like that, so I'm just going to go in and lift that up. I'm tempted, I could have had a little fish tail sticking out the top of that, couldn't I? But no, I'm going to just seam that over again. So that's pretty cool. Soul gazy pie or fish heads. I don't think, you can't really see it, thank goodness, much of this gravy in there, because if I just do that a little bit you can see more of it. It's all gooey and wet looking in there. I don't know that I want to see any more than that. Could do a little jug of gravy on the side. No, I think that's good enough. So I'm just going to get some chalk pastels. Okay, so these are your typical pastels, and really we want some brown and some orange to make it look more baked. So I'll just literally do that. Wipe that off so it doesn't go in the orange. And then brush it, and I'm sure you've seen people do this all the time on polymer clay videos. Just get a mixture of orange and brown, and then do it typically where it would catch in the oven. And less is more, so you can always add more. Can't always take it away, so just build up slowly. So you can see it soon starts to look nice and edible. And you can, I'm going to bake this now. You can always add some matte varnish or glossy varnish. I think you need to be careful the type of varnish you use on polymer clay, so certainly research the varnish before you do that. You can use this as a bit of a glaze, but it's not a gloss glaze, and you can use UV resin. So I'm just playing around, if you can see some of that more. I don't want it to look too perfect. I don't know if you can get any of that detail there. So I'm going to bake that now. The stand, the support for the wings has come out. I've set the wings with some wire in like an all-purpose glue there, so then I can bend them back on each other, and then I'll ask Rod to just solder them, or I might be able to wire them on to that stand. So I'll go and do that, and then I think that's it for today. I did have, oh yes, the only other thing that I thought of to go in there, which you've probably seen, was this portrait of Edgar the Raven in a frame. And that was simply, this was an image that I found on Google without the name Edgar in it. That would be too much of a coincidence. It was just a blank plate. And so I did the PNG to SVG conversion, brought it into Design Space, and then just used contour to take out all the layers so that I was left with the blank frame. And then of course I could use that to build up several layers of just the blank frame behind the fancy frame, and then I welded an oval into that to create a solid back piece. So that is how we created a simple-ish picture frame. And of course the front detail that was already on the PNG, I used the foiling tool on the Cricut to do that embellishment in silver foil. So that's just 4 layers of craft board and a PNG to create that. And then I printed off some photos to get one the right size, and then put that in there. And I did print them on photo paper just to give it that nice little gloss. So that's out, the other thing that's going in the Book Nook. So that's it for today. Tomorrow is the last day, so that's exciting. We've managed to do 13 days, and we're just going to take a final tour around the Book Nook and see everything all in there together. So thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you soon.